I apparently hit the button. Okay, so I was just debating on if I wanted to try sitting in the back seat because there's like some funky light situation up here. Um, but I'm gonna just start right here and try to avoid the sun awkwardness. Um, so it's windy as hell outside. Otherwise, I wanted to sit under a tree, and it's just not gonna happen. I was thinking about skating, but I'm kind of feeling the same kind of way of with this wind. I've skated like that before. It's not real fun, so I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's not ideal. Um, Now I don't know what's happening there. Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on with my lighting in the situation, so I might have to move like me into the next seat or something. um, yeah, we're gonna try it. I did some running around with my aunt earlier, and one thing that I did is I have this water bottle that it's like from this animal rescue site, and it just like it doesn't have like any mouthpiece or anything. It just holds water, right? So and it's got a screw top on it. So I usually use it for the dogs when we go walking. I'll fill it up and then just pour it into the bowl that I have in the car for them. And when we took the dogs back home, because we were going to go out to lunch, I set it on the top of the car. I was like, all right, hopefully I won't forget that in the time it takes me to get all the dogs out of the car. I did forget it. Mainly because I was distracted. My aunt and uncle came over today to help in the garage. My mom finally relented and decided to allow them to do so. And it kind of worked out. I don't know how well it worked out, honestly, because I have not been sticking around at all for it. But my dad never cleans the garage. In fact, he leaves everything for everybody else to have to do. And this is like a long time thing that he's just always done. He feels like everybody else is supposed to handle it, so he doesn't do it. Well, since his brother and sister were coming over to help, Mom let him do it. And she said she wasn't going to go out there because if she went out there, he'd stop. So this way, he was having to be motivated and having to actually do something. And apparently, they got into it a couple times today. The first was, okay, so, like, I want to say sometime last year, my dad had a temper tantrum and called and cussed out Xfinity and told him we didn't want their service anymore, and you know, a whole lot of angry bitching, and I don't even remember what the issue was. But when that went away, we got really shitty TV, right? So it's like there's not even like regular channels. It feels like the TV is modern enough. I mean, it's still like 25 years old, so it's not real new or anything. Maybe 1920. Because I'm wanting to say, I don't know. Anyway, it's old. But it was like, it's kind of like the modern version of the old tubes that, you know, that the people would make jokes about being the remote control and having like 3 channels and all that. It's kind of like that, except, yeah, there's technically a remote, except my dad keeps losing them. So frequently when you want to turn the TV off, it's go over and turn off the TV on the actual TV itself because, you know, he lost it again, right? Most of the channels that do come through, there's not many. And he spent a lot of time watching like CSI and stuff like that, and I think it's mainly because that's the channel that comes in the most clearly is whatever is playing repeats of them all the time. And there there's like NCIS for a while, CSI, Criminal Minds is in there occasionally, Law and Order, all those type shows, right? So it's like whatever channel he found basically just plays these shows on repeat or something. And every now and then, something that he finds, it starts cutting out. Like if it's a windy day, right? The signal's not real ideal, and it's kind of shit. So my mom's got sick and tired of it, and she's like, she can't watch anything. There's been times where she's wanted to sit down and watch something while she's brushing the dogs, and because my dad threw a fit and got rid of the cable, that hasn't been an option. And it's kind of a pain in the ass to try to figure out what she can watch, because there's not a whole lot of options, and she and I don't know how he has it set up, because we've had no interest in watching it because there's so few options. So if it's a movie, I can put that in the DVD player and get that going, but even in the last time we did that, I discovered that's a pain in the ass too, because you have to unplug one thing and plug something else in for that to be able to happen, right? To plug the DVD player in to be able to use it. So there's basically a ton of shit up by the TV, and not much of it is very useful. Like the VCR can probably go. I don't know when the last time anybody's used that was. It might not be there anymore, but last time I knew it was. Yeah, it's just like dumb shit. Anyway, Mom got sick of it. She wants to be able to watch something without him being in the middle of it. Like when she wants to stay up later and decide she wants to brush the dog, or just wants to sit in there and watch something else, right? So she got Xfinity back out. And of course, that in and of itself pissed my dad off, because he told him that he was never going to use them again. And then we're going back. So yeah, they've been bickering over that enough as it is. But then, like, they started getting it set up sometime over the summer, and the guy said he had to come back for something, and he never came back, right? And the cord never got buried in the yard or anything, so it's just like laying loose across the rocks for the dogs to trip on and all that fun stuff, or anybody that were to walk out there, which is mainly me. But they finally called Xfinity back last night and said, hey, this never got finished. Right? So, and like my mom had me get up there and look around to see what had happened last time, because there was somebody that had come out, but for some reason it's like, where's the box? Right? There was some kind of box before, and there was nothing from that. And I didn't know what was going on at that point in time. Didn't really care. Was just letting them do whatever they do, as per the norm. But they called them last night, and they sent somebody out this morning. So they said they'd be there between 8 and 10. And I think it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock when they got there, which doesn't really matter. But my mom had them go ahead, and now mind you, my dad's pissy because she went back to Xfinity after he canceled it and said he'd never go back. So that's one issue. Also, she had the guy set it up to put a cable box in their room again, which it's been a long time since they had one in there. Because once upon a time when I was watching stuff with my mom a lot, we were just always out in the living room, right? So whatever anybody wanted to watch, we would just watch it out there. And at one point, we did have cable boxes in the bedrooms, but I don't hardly ever watch TV in my room. Both rooms have... Okay, I don't watch TV either space unless I have like a movie, because I don't watch TV. So I had a cable box, and I was like, well, how much does this cost? And like, they were paying extra on the month for me to have one in my room. It's like, well, I'm not using it anymore, so just go ahead and cancel that. You know, it's one less thing to have to worry about on that end. And so they did, and then they eventually, I think they got rid of theirs first. But that was also like the room that I had it in. Current bedroom, formerly the office. Tend to watch TV more in the office type space when I'm like multitasking. I have one Blu-ray player. And where, like, if I'm in the mood to clean my room, I will move it into my room and hook it up to that TV and then just watch it in there, right? Watch movies. Which is annoying because I have that stupid thing that, you know, wants to tell me every 5 minutes that I'm not set up to the damn network. And then I just keep getting, like, these alerts that pop up. And once it starts, it just, like, keeps popping up. Like, it might not... I've had days where I've watched an entire movie and it won't pop up. Usually it's going to pop up, and when it does pop up, it's going to be like 20 times in a minute. And I'm just sitting there with the remote to hit play so it goes away. It took a while to figure out that was the magic trick, and it doesn't always work. Play usually makes it go away unless I catch it before it completely loads. Like, it'll pop this thing up in the corner with the little like globe looking thing, and I know it's getting ready to put the alert up there, so I'll have the remote ready. If I get too eager and hit it ahead of time, then it like won't work when it does pop up, and I can try to hit play and then it won't like go away. Anyway, so that's that annoyance. But back to them. So Mom wanted to have the thing in their room now because my dad wants to be in charge of whatever's on TV, and it's, you know, mostly boring stuff. But I guess he threw a fit that she got the cable box put back in their room. Because there again, he didn't want Xfinity, period. But he also didn't want her to have an option of going somewhere else where he isn't, right? So he is really obnoxious. She cannot leave the room to go to their bathroom, right? The back of the house, without him saying something. And, you know, they might not say anything to each other while she's sitting in there, but as soon as she gets up and goes in the other room, you know, if I go in there and, you know, I'm around the sink or the fridge and he hears me in there, it's, Donita's at you? It's like, are you fucking lonely? She just left the room. Right? So we were having this conversation this morning. It's like, because he wants to dominate the TV. He wants to be in charge of something. You know, basically, I was telling my aunt, it's like, he's wanting the existence that my grandfather had with my grandmother, right? Where he's in control of the TV and dictates what they're going to watch, and, you know, she has to go along with it. And when she doesn't cooperate, then he gets irritated. You know, he's definitely prone to temper tantrums. I was thinking last night, just like with some of the little behavioral things that I was thinking about with him, it's like, I don't want to dismiss that whole possibility of him being a narcissist thing, because, you know, I've talked on here several times. It's like, with him, I've been kind of torn. And I feel like I can't just say, no, he's not. Like he's 1,000% toxic. That's for sure. But what I was thinking about was, okay, this deal with his brother and sister coming out. I am confident he has been talking about how, you know, we're not doing anything, right? I'm living there and not doing anything. Mind you, where I stopped was when I realized that I was spending all this time cleaning and they were just constantly adding to the problem without contributing to the solution, right? So it was, I would spend all this time cleaning. I would spend like hours upon hours cleaning, like for like a week, right? Over the course of a week, I would just spend a ton of time working on something, be it the garage, be it something in the house, whatever, usually jumping back and forth between different things. But I would get to the point where it's like I would just hit a wall and have to stop. And what I was noticing was every time I stopped, the shit didn't stop accumulating. It's like, okay. It's like, so what is going on here, right? So then, like I've talked about how I have my dog crate in the living room. The living room is the place that I have anything. Like, I don't have anything in the kitchen or the family room anymore because my dad's in those spaces all the time and he's a slob, right? So, what I was noticing was I had my dog crate set up and I would put my skate stuff on it to dry after I was done. Every single time, there would be some kind of junk that was, started getting put onto my stuff. It would be an empty Diet Coke bottle, random fucking fork, napkins wadded up, a sweatshirt here and there, a blanket, his stuff. It's like he was going out of his way to put his stuff where my stuff was, so I would have to deal with his stuff, right? So I stopped going into the family room. The only time I'm in the family room is if I'm cutting through or if my mom talks me into watching a movie or something. And, it doesn't happen often, but on occasion. And it's really kind of icky trying to figure out a place to want to sit because, there's the furniture's... When he was still working and my mom and I would watch stuff, I had this one spot that I was always sitting in. As soon as he retired, that was the spot he always went to. And when he started sitting there, he plops, right? It's like 350 pounds of plop. And that's hard on furniture. So I wouldn't sit there, right? And this was before all the incontinence issues. But it was just the fact that he can't sit normally on furniture, so things are broken, right? A couple days ago, I finally pulled the 3 legs off of the love seat in the living room. So nobody will want to sit on that now because it's literally on the ground, but the dogs might. Gidget is the one that's on it the most, and it's usually because it's in front of the window, so she can stand on it while she looks out. But because he broke it, because he plops, the one leg, the leg wasn't broken, but it had like this screw in the top that screwed into, it just like twisted into a metal piece on the frame. And that's what broke, right? So the leg's still okay, but like the piece that keeps the leg attached to the couch, like not the screw itself, but like the piece it screws into is what broke. And so it's like, well, another thing we got that you used to be able to sit on, but not since he started plopping on it, right? So, yeah, but, I've talked on here a lot too about every time I start sitting somewhere or start having something in the space, he starts doing that, right? And it's like, okay, so the couch, right? The spot that I sat in before when I would watch stuff with my mom. No big deal, right? There's other places to sit in this room. Okay, fine. So I got to a point where I would sit on the other couch. And, it's not like I'm sitting there every day by any means. I've decided to come in the room for the first time in a month, and I'm going to sit in this space temporarily. Or my mom talked me into watching something. Or whatever. Or brushing the dogs. That's usually where you get hung up. So I started sitting on this other couch that's closer to the fireplace. But then the next several times that I would go in there, he was sitting in that spot. It's like, interesting. And there's this other chair in there. It's this kind of oversized leather armchair. And it used to be my brother's. But he and his wife ended up getting rid of the set. And for a while, my parents took it on in case they wanted it, in case my brother and sister-in-law ended up wanting it back. Then they did take it back for a while. But then they went to get rid of it because the couch had something break. But my mom got the armchair back. So the armchair is fairly safe. So the problem with the armchair is it's always got like a mound of blankets and stuff put on pillows that nobody uses, but we just have 1,000 of them anyway. So Mom wanted to watch a movie this one night. It's like, all right, fine. And I cleared everything off of this chair, right? And then I sent my brother a message. I said, if I forget to put this stuff back on the couch or back on this chair, he's going to be sitting here. It's like he's going to take this over. And sure enough, when I forgot, like that day, I forgot to put the stuff back on. And when I went in there the next time, and I mentioned it to my mom as well, but when I go in there the next time, that's where he's sitting. Because of course he is, right? Because that is the common element, is wherever I go, he's going to try to go into that space to nasty it up or something to make it so I don't want to sit it there anymore. And I don't think it's so I don't want to sit there anymore. I think it's specifically so I have to clean up after him, and I'm not going to, especially the fucking incontinence stuff, you know. Okay. The time of shitting on the floor was because he decided to walk around the house naked. And he got yelled at a lot for that. It's like, there are other people living in this house and nobody wants to see your ass naked. You know, but then especially when he's running around without the Depends on and shits on the floor and then just leaves it, right? So it's like he's trying to force whoever to clean up after him, right? So this is where I was struggling with the idea of wanting to let go of the possibility of the narcissism piece with him. It's like he's definitely like full on toxic. But I was thinking about like, okay, the garage. So I've talked about this a bunch too. It's like, you know, when I stopped doing all the time, it was because my mom started just, you know, she was still accumulating shit, right? So they decide that they're not going to camp anymore because they got health issues going on. Excuse me. And because the friend that was going to go camping with them, you know, the one guy died and they're not going to take his wife without him. So that was kind of, you know, insert wrench in plan. So then, you know, health stuff came up. So then they got around to deciding that they were going to sell the camper, which is still hasn't happened yet. It is at the place for camper sales, but it has not, nobody's gotten it yet. So, all the stuff that was in the camper went in the garage. And then my mom's best friend, her sister died last year, and her daughters decided to have an auction. And I knew it was going to be a problem when the start of the auction was on, okay, the auction itself was online, right? So they had like one of those things with the links, and you can go in and look around and see what's available and bid on it. And it had just opened up, and my mom's going through there and concerned about, well, they have this stuff marked so low, they're not going to get anything out of this stuff. It's like, it is an auction. You are aware they start low and go high, right? Like they build to get some people interested in the things first. It's like, you know, that's how this works, right? So, you know, so like she completely neglected that point when it came to picking up the stuff that she got off the auction. You know, I guess they had the stuff that was set out for the people that bought it. But then there was also the stuff that they were just going to get rid of. So she got to go through all the stuff that, didn't have anybody interested on it on the website and get a whole bunch of that shit for free, right? So, or for very little. And so she brings all this, she's got all this camper stuff that goes in the garage, and then she brings all this other shit in the garage that we didn't need, and, take up the space for the car, so we can't fit the car in the garage anymore. And like every time I turned around, she was throwing more shit in there, like, getting stuff off of my brother and my sister-in-law when they were getting ready to move. Oh, you're getting rid of this? I'll take it. It's like, we don't need to take everything. She ended up shrinking the path, and then, when she fell and broke her back, it was a pain in the ass to get the rollator through. So, of course now she's got this broken back issue, so she can't get out there and do anything on that end. But again, it's because they just get all the shit and I'm supposed to deal with it, right? And when I stopped, I think my dad has been complaining to his brother and sister about how nothing's happening. But it's specifically what the fuck is that? Oh, that's been there. Sorry, easily distracted. The derailed. Ooh, and now my stomach's talking again, because of course it is. It's like he started loading on the oh woe is me shit with his brother and sister-in-law, and how their health is just so bad and all this stuff, and they can't do the things. So that roped in the brother and sister to wanting to help. So I was thinking, like, okay, my sister, or my aunt, she was already married to an extremely toxic dude way back when, right? The uncle that she was married to when I was little was abusive. And, my mom and I had a conversation a while back about or some of the things that he would say to her. And, she made a big deal about, well, he would never say anything bad around me, but, some of the things that he heard, or she heard him say to his wife were absolutely horrible. And she said she got after him a few times for that. It's like, my aunt already has that personality type of accepting the bad behavior, right? And there again, another one of those points of where I was watching toxic relationships growing up, and that's the demonstration I have of marriage relationships, largely really toxic and abusive, but I don't know as far as physical violence goes on that end, but verbally, absolutely, emotional, psychological, all that fun stuff. Absolutely, right? And the people, in the relationships would just, like, go out of their way to try to appease the toxic partner, but not ever stand up for themselves, right? So this was what I grew up seeing, that aunt with her husband, and, he was not good to his 3 daughters either. And then the other sister, my dad's other sister, she was married to the farmer, and he was very much somehow liked by the community pretty well, but he was a toxic person just to be around. Like, anytime somebody would ask how he was doing, not a damn bit of good, he always had bad things to say, right? And seeing how my aunt would get manipulated along the way. But yet also, yeah, the big thing now is, since her husband's gone, her daughter is stepping into that role. So, so the daughter knows that there's this family thing, and her mom has the opportunity to go spend some time with her siblings, which they like doing. The siblings like spending time together, right? The last thing was the little get together over at my uncle's new place when he got back up here from Florida. I think that aunt had been there like a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and her granddaughter called and said they were done doing whatever they were doing and could she pick her up, right? So she had to stop everything she was doing to go leave the family situation and go cater to the daughter and the granddaughter, so it's like nobody, okay. I don't know of anybody in the family that really particularly likes that daughter, that niece, that whatever. She's one I haven't been able to stand her since we were little. I want to say I was 6 or 7, and all the girls were together. We were going to play something. I was second to youngest, right? So there's the oldest sister's oldest daughter. She's got 3. Okay, the oldest sister has 3 daughters. The first daughter is second in line of all the grandkids to my brother. The only child is after that one. And then the middle sister of the 3, and then me, and then the youngest sister. Right? So we were all going to play something, and nobody wanted to do what the only child wanted to do. I was a little more bold in standing up for what the rest of us wanted to do, because they wanted to play the same thing that I did, and the only did not like it, so she had to use me to set an example for the rest. So she slapped me for the sake of demonstrating to the others what was going to happen to them if they continued to try to go against her will, right? Her wishes, what she wanted to do. Which I think it ended up just killing everything, and nobody played anything beyond that point. I'm going to say that was probably the last time I played with those cousins, right? And I was like 6 or 7. So then that was before like all hell broke loose in my life anyway, but still. So there is a long-standing history of toxic relationships on both sides of my family, right? My dad's side, there's a whole bunch of them. My mom's side, I've talked about those plenty of times. What I was thinking with this aunt and this uncle, I feel like with my uncle, see, my aunt was just very much the submissive and just giving everybody their way kind of a type. This uncle, I feel like, is, yes, he wants to be helpful, but at the same time also not good with having boundaries. Excuse me, because that's like the biggest thing. Like, how many times did my mom tell them no, or tell my dad no for this whole situation, and yet they're still over there cleaning the garage today. So like what I told my mom is, it's like, I feel like I understand why they would push to make sure that they knew that they were wanting to help, right? So also the receiving end of, receiving assistance. That's not something that anybody in my family does well. But it just seemed like, to an extent, it makes sense that they would push a little bit more to try to help where they could. But at the same time, at what point is it crossing a boundary and getting in the middle of stuff to force their way into helping? because they already had their minds set to it. And I think part of that is, going back to the point with my dad, where he sent a message to my brother December last year about how as the oldest son, or as the oldest child, it is his duty to step up and take care of his parents once they start going downhill, right? And I've talked about that a lot on here. It's like, the problem is they get to the point of, okay, like my dad's parents have been dead for years, right? So that's not an issue anymore, right? Which means, he retired out. Now he can just be useless and we're supposed to just tend to it, right? My brother, because he's the oldest, me, because I'm a daughter. We're just supposed to stop everything and cater to what they want, right? Cater to their wishes, their way of not doing anything anymore, right? They don't have to do anything anymore because they have kids that are supposed to do that, right? So this has been the reason that I've realized, that I realized it's like these were the ways that my growing up, my life demonstrated to me over and over again that I was not supposed to have my own life. I wasn't supposed to want things for myself, right? I was just supposed to accept my duty as a daughter and cater to all the bullshit, right? So they stop, like my dad is incapable of cleaning up his own trash. And I've talked about him leaving apple cores on the end table next to where he sits. Or, at one point my brother said there was like, I've seen it too. Like he just starts stuffing trash in the armrest of the couch. My mom keeps buying him this beef jerky, and he loves eating that and then leaving the trash behind, and then the dogs get into the trash because it's freaking beef jerky, right? So whether there's anything in it or not, when they get to it, they're still going to destroy the shit out of the package because he can't clean it up, right? Or there's a random empty box. Okay, like I had a box on the humidifier because they were off for the summer, right? And I was getting ready to put like Goodwill stuff in it, right? So stuff to donate, because we try to avoid Goodwill. And I go through there randomly and there's trash in it, or there's a box on top of the dog food container because, we got a package that arrived and it just didn't get put out in the garage yet. So he starts putting trash in it. It's like, not in the actual trash cans, which there are plenty of those around, because there's the one that, okay, so the one that's broken is across from the garage, which is that's like a 4-foot space, right? So there's a little trash can right next to the fridge. That one used to be the main trash can, but it was over by the pantry at that point in time. We had to get a new trash can because the dogs were getting into it all the time. So Ziva and Taz figured out that if they grab a hold of the plastic and jerk on it real quick, they can, or real hard, they can get the lid to pop open and whatever they want out of it. And so that was a continuous issue. So we replaced the trash can and got one that you have to wave at it and before it'll open. And it also has a little plastic ring in it that keeps the bag in place, so that keeps that from happening. But since that one's over by the pantry and the laundry room, it's this would actually be a good space to have this other one. And it has worked out really well that way. But that's 2 trash cans in the kitchen, one in direct walking, the direct walking path, right? So if you stay on that path, you can go from the family room, the kitchen, and the living room, right? So it's the path to the rest of the house, right? Rather than having to go out of your way to go over to the laundry room to throw something away, it's maybe this would help. Yet he still finds anything else that's available and just starts throwing shit in it. Doesn't know what it's there for or anything, just starts throwing stuff in there. And it'll be the food trash, so, the dogs will still get into it that way. So it's just kind of like dumb shit, right? And there's still the dirty silverware that's left everywhere. The empty Coke bottles are really bad. Like, you just put those anywhere and oops, and never come back to doing anything about it, right? So I have a really hard time thinking that part of it isn't because he, because my brother's gone and I'm there, but I'm not sufficiently fulfilling my duty of cleaning up after him, right? I talked about when he shit on the floor, he was made to clean it up at first, and he did a really shitty job. But when it was, the end of the summer, so we were going to turn on the air conditioning again because it, was getting back up into the upper 80s again, like the one last time before fall kicked in. So we were going to turn the air on. So can't have the house closed up with the shit still there, right? So I ended up going and getting the carpet cleaner and trying to fix that, but it ended up, like, the first time around it made it worse. The second time around, I don't know that it necessarily made it, it didn't make it go away. It was like the first time it just spread it out. The second time it still spread it out a little bit more, but not to the same extreme, and it did get rid of some of the smell. However, the house is still horrid, and we're not trying to have company over. Like, my aunt was in there sitting at the table with my mom at one point today when I went through, and I went over to the family room. It's like, it smells bad in here. So I went back and grabbed a candle and took it into the kitchen and was like, here, it smells. And my mom, she's not gonna lie about why it fucking smells like a nursing home. But then again, that's one of those layers of my aunt and my uncle feeling sorry for my dad and wanting to make things easier for him, kind of a thing. But it's like, but he literally does not care about anything. Right? So like last night, just thinking about like the different personalities, and it's like, how much of this is they want to help because they want to step in like they did for their parents because that's what they were raised to do, right? And I'm still in protest. It's like I'm still doing a lot of shit in there. That's the problem. It's just, I'm not catering to everything. Like, okay, I sat for my storage unit. My mom got all excited the other day because I said something about putting a couple things in over there. And, she started, like, coming up with things that we could take over there. I said, stop. I said, I will take things over there that are either mine that I want out of the way or that I am posting online to sell. I said, I'm not just taking anything over there just because you want it out of this space. That's not the purpose of my storage unit. Plus there is the new shed in the backyard that my stuff's not in anymore because I got the storage unit. So they're going to have to, there again, has to be me to put it out there because, nobody else can do that. Oh, the other thing they were fighting about today was, since his brother and sister were coming over, and my dad made a big deal about, I don't know what he did, that he was apparently feeling real proud of himself on and felt kind of good doing something. And my mom was like, yeah, so why don't you try going out there? And he also made a comment complaining about all the leaves that were down. And she said, so go do something about it, right? So he actually got on the mower for the first time in God knows how long. I want to say probably since like April, since around the eye surgery / stroke time. because he's gotten progressively less involved. You know, it was like, that was the thing that gave him an excuse that now there's health problems, so now somebody really has to deal with this, right? My aunt and I were talking today about some of this stuff, and I was, you know, she's been working with her therapist on setting boundaries and not just throwing her energy away because people need help, you know, because like, you know, like she and my uncle were very active in their church, and they were the ones making sure all the dinners and all the things that they did were put together and everything was handled and whatnot. And the last event that they had, apparently nobody from the church would even speak to them. And, you know, they sat by themselves when they were eating. And that was, you know, where they decided that they were done at that church. And, you know, so that's one of those things. They didn't have any boundaries. They didn't ever tell them no. They just, you know, wanted to help. And in doing so, nobody else appreciated their time and energy past a certain point, and then, you know, then they're just taking advantage of, and it's, you know, what's the point, right? So with that decision to leave that church, which again, that's one they've been going to for a long time, because when my aunt and uncle moved up here from Oklahoma, they started going there with my grandma, because it was the one she was going to all the time. And I went there. I went there because my brother had started going there, and I just felt like I needed to go back to church for a span of time. And he was going there, so I went there too. When I started going there, it was shortly after my aunt and uncle came back from Oklahoma, and there was one weekend I wanted to go forward and do the prayer and all the things, right? But I didn't have the nerve to go up there, even though, like, there wasn't a whole lot of people in that church by any means. It was just, I didn't feel comfortable about going forward. And then my aunt kind of leans over and she says, "I'll go if you go." So we both ended up going up together, and we both ended up getting baptized the next weekend together. And it's like, okay, right? So that was like, I wanted to say I was like 15 or 16. And, you know, we got baptized the same weekend. I left shortly after that because I had a better offer, right? I had the friends that invited me to their church, and they were getting ready to start a youth thing, so I started going there. And she never left, right? She just had been going to that church for forever, and until nobody would talk to them, right? So yeah, so she's been working with a therapist on setting boundaries, and she said that's one thing is, like, my mom would always go out of her way and start doing the dishes over at my grandma's house and all this stuff, and she said she never would. And then she said one day my mom looked at her and said, "That's a good idea. That'll give her something else to do," right? Because my grandmother wasn't doing anything. It was get up to go to the bathroom, go back to the chair and sit down. Get up and go find something to eat, go back to the chair and sit down, right? So it's like there was nothing ever for her to do. She wasn't appreciating that it was getting done. It just was getting done around her. So one of the boundaries was they stopped just doing everything, right? So like I have for my parents. And the silly thing is, since my aunt and uncle were coming over today, my mom had wanted to go to the garage and do some work on Monday. I had been planning to help her with that. She had asked me about it in advance. I was on board, right? Because we had the conversation. It wasn't just expecting me to do this, right? It was discussed and agreed. But then Monday, my dad had an appointment, so they went to that, and then she went over to my grandma's house, and then she didn't come back, right? So when she hadn't come back, and it was like 2:00, well, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, so I wanted to do a video that day, so I ended up leaving and doing a video, and then when I got back, she just wasn't, it didn't happen, right? But it's like, we had talked about it, and had she come back sooner, like, I walked the dogs and all that stuff, but it's like, I was still, at some point, waiting on her to show back up, so it wasn't just all on me, but I think she was still wanting it to be where I had said it, so I would go ahead and start without her. So it didn't end up getting done because, again, I was all set to participate, but not to the extreme of this is all on me and now it's my thing and that's it, right? And it's kind of, today it's like, it was probably a good thing that I wasn't around, because I don't know what they did with anything. I did make sure to let my aunt and uncle know not to throw my paint stuff away. I said I tried to move it over to one space to get it out of the way as much as possible. I said, but don't throw any of my paint stuff away. That's my projects and stuff, right? But when I got back home, after walking the dogs, there were a couple of cans of paint that I had missed that were in the middle of the floor. And so I grabbed them and my dad said, that's trash, right? It's like, no, my paint is not trash. Right? It's like, it's probably, it's not spectacular paint. It's old, but like, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was actually the indigo that I didn't think we had anymore, because it wasn't where the paint stuff's supposed to be at. Because last time I was being real productive in there, I cleared everything off of a shelf and like all my paint stuff went on the shelf. And it's literally a shelf full of just like paint stuff, right? There's the container with the drawer that has like the brushes and the can opener thing and the sticks, the tarps, they're plastic or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And then there's one of those, it's like the boxes they put fruit in at like Sam's Club, where it's got like 6 packages of grapes and then another 6 on top of that. Those, because we end up with those all the time. Well, we were when we were going there a lot. Haven't been there in a while, actually. But, yeah, so all these you get the same kind of boxes too. So, there's one of those boxes that's just full of spray paint. Because again, I discovered clearance paint and then I was having fun with the painting frames and whatnot. And then then I ended up with the like quart cans of paint that, a couple I got on clearance. And then there was, then when my brother and his wife were moving out of their first house up here, they had a bunch that they were gonna just leave behind with the house. It's like, don't do that, I'll take it. They're just gonna throw it away. I like these things. I like the treasure of free paint or cheap paint or whatever. It's like, I can do stuff with this, right? And then, okay, so the indigo, that was the color that I painted my room when I came back in 2017, right? So it's like the trial run of leaving for good, like figuring out what I had to do to be able to disconnect from my ex for good, right? So, which was, I realized that I needed to have my own separate bank account and have a storage unit that I paid for out of that separate bank account, so he didn't know about it, and I could like move stuff over there when he wasn't around. Yeah, but anyway. So when I moved back up to figure out what all I need, or on the round of figuring out what all I needed to do, because he was stealing stuff out of my boxes after he figured out what I was doing, I came back and painted really quick. Like that was the first thing to do, because I was moving back. And so I went with this indigo color. And of course, it's funny in thinking about it now, because I went with indigo because that was like, what I was thinking was like, I think that's a third eye chakra color. And I remember thinking that maybe this will help me gain some clarity, right? And, some direction for my forward momentum, right? So this paint my room, this space that I'm moving back into, and now that I'm surrounded by this color, maybe it will help to gain some clarity, right? So that was the whole reason I did that, right? But then, okay, so of course, I was there, and then I went back the last time for, so December 2017, I moved back home, and I was there for 9 months. August 2018, and this was like a couple weeks after Tyler had died, I went back down there. I took all my shit back down there because I had to believe it was a real attempt. He had to believe it was a real attempt to make it work. And, of course, with Tyler's death, that was the thing that, I had all this stuff that I'd been carrying my whole life that I was terrified to look at by myself. After Tyler died, I remember thinking, whatever's on the other side of death, he knows everything that I would have tried to deny or hide otherwise. So it gave me space to finally be real with myself and open up about things that I was afraid to admit to before. Like all the shit with my cousin that I realized was I carried this whole bullshit idea that I had done something really wrong, and when I actually stopped and looked at it, it's like, no, I just had a bunch of people that made me feel like I did something like horribly wrong, rather than actually having the conversation to try to teach me to not do anything on that end. It was you just, assuming that it was true, dumping all this guilt and shame on me, and, that's all, right? That we're, you're forever branded a whore for some dumb shit that you realize 20-some years later didn't even actually happen, but because everybody around you wanted to believe that it had. They just, they were gonna, my freaking dipshit cousin and his dipshit buddy, they took that and ran with it all through grade school, right? So that was when I was 8, when I was in 2nd grade, and it followed me all the way through to my senior year. And then it showed up again when I was 30, and then it showed up again when I was 35. And of course, when I was 35, that was when Tyler died. So it showed up. It was my mom went to buy some puzzles or books from this douchey dude's wife that, they'd had for their daughters. She was selling them on Facebook, so my mom found them and wanted to buy them. And I was driving my mom over there because we'd been doing some other running. And dude sees me and looks at me like he knows something about me. It's like all over again, right? So then once Tyler died, because this was kind of a trigger point, that wasn't the main bully. That was just kind of the his, the dude that's trying to be real big and cool and live up to the bullshit the big bully's doing. And, is this good enough for you? Do I earn your acceptance this way? Kind of that dude, right? It always has made me think of like the dogs in Looney Tunes, where there's the big bulldog Spike, and then there's the little dog, and initially Spike's this big puffed up, nobody's gonna mess with him, and the little one's just and trying to get his to win his pat on the back or whatever, and then something happens and the little dog's the brave one and saves the big dog, and then suddenly it's the little dog that's walking around all tough, and the big dog's acting like he really did something special. Right? So like that's always the visual that I've gotten with those two. It was just that he was trying to kiss the other dude's ass and live up to his legacy of assholery. Anyway, so that was like a trigger point. So then once Tyler died, I'd already had this other thing that was sort of activated and ready to be dealt with. So once Tyler died, then it was whatever is on the other side of death, he already knows. So there's no sense in me holding back, and so I started writing him letters, right? So letters he never got, obviously, because he was dead. I ended up burning most of them, probably all of them. But I burned them after I wrote them. But, in the time that I spent writing, it's like that was the first time I gave myself the space to finally put it down. And it's like, this was shit that I was afraid to look at because I was afraid that if I looked at it, it would confirm what everybody else had been telling me my entire life. But then what it ended up doing was giving me space to realize all the different layers, like other people that came into my life to attempt to screw me over in some kind of way because of this thing that happened, right? Because those two assholes, not the Spike and the other dog, not those two, the cousin that was a dipshit and his buddy that was also in drumline with me, and that was a pain in the ass, except for luckily everybody in drumline liked me better than they liked that guy. So there was that, and part of that was because I was dating the one guy in high school, and everybody loved him, so it was kind of like a safe space, and everybody liked him, so they got to know me a little bit better because I was around more, right? And because of being able to get to know me to some degree, they seemed to enjoy my company a little bit, right? But whereas if it hadn't been for that connection with that boyfriend, and had that other dipshit been more popular, that probably would have been a miserable experience for me too, right? But like that was one of my first safe spaces with a group of people where it was like, because they already deemed this guy to be a dipshit, nobody took him seriously. But then also, it's like I saw that layer of part of the reason he was being as awful to me as he was because it was a means of deflecting the attention from him, right? So in the space where in drumline, it wasn't okay for that, right? I was one of the leaders, so that was not safe to continuously be a pain in my ass, because I probably could have gotten some people really after his ass that way. But yeah, it was just that point of always seeing that what he was doing was a means of deflecting the attention from him, right? A means of claiming that I did something way worse than he possibly did or could have, and because of that, just, hey, have you seen her? Like keep the attention off me and send it back that way, right? But then, when he and my cousin were doing that in 7th grade band, one of the dudes that was with them in the trumpet section believed what they were saying. And then that opened a whole, can of worms that, he's like, deemed that I must, because I have all this experience that I didn't actually have, that meant that I was easy, and that he wanted some action, so, he wanted to have the experience. So since he was told that clearly I was easy, right? So, he decides to try to schmooze so he can get what he wants, right? Which is the experience. And me trying to prove the opposite, that wasn't the thing, I went along with it as a means of trying to set the record straight without being able to say specifically what had gone on, what had or hadn't gone on. It's like, it was just like it was a way that I was trying to get some of that gone, right? If I disproved this situation, which, it didn't end up doing that either. It just, when he makes a big deal that, we ended up at a campground. He was with his Boy Scout troop. I was there with my family, and we spent some time together one day and went on a hike, and he was groping me and all this shit. And I took that as this is the end of it, right? Because the only reason that I went along with any of it was for the sake of clearing my name, but it didn't do that. What it did was just wound his ego So he didn't get the experience that he wanted, but when my friends went with me and, kind of backed away from him because, he obviously just wanted something, he didn't like that either. So then come around to sophomore year in high school. Now, mind you, my freshman year in high school was the year the whole Columbine thing happened. And so that was the big thing. Sophomore year, that dude decided to take that as an example and try to start some shit. And I don't know, I think he showed up to school with a knife or something. Ended up getting busted and expelled, but then apparently had a hit list of people that he was going to execute, if you will, and I was on the list, right? So then it's this layer of this thing that followed me, is the stupid thing that didn't even happen, but yet it followed me for all of my grade school career, right? And in sophomore year, it was this thing where, okay, so the one friend that told me that we were on the list was somebody that was, he really liked her. And when I thwarted his plans to gain experience, and of course that was my best friend, she didn't go along with it. That was, the big wounding of the ego thing there on that end. But then, when she told me that I was on the list too, the dude was still there. I think, I don't really remember much of the scenario. I remember we were in the hallway and I think he was there with, I don't know if it was a police officer. I mean, surely it would have. But I just remember looking at him after she told me this and, just giving him this look of, we both know you don't have that. You don't have it in you to do this. Why are you wasting my time, kind of a thing. And there again, that's one of those things. It's for somebody who's had their ego wounded and they're trying to make a big show of, well, because I've been hurt, then I'm going to hurt a whole bunch of other people, right? But he was, he didn't do anything enough to, he was expelled for the year, but he came back the next year. So as far as, because it's one of those things, it's you can't be too much brushing it off when that's something that's so prominent as it is now. But he was very much one of those types that had more of the pieces been in place, he probably would have been the type to do something. But at that point in time and, that moment of seeing him in the hallway, it was just, we both know you can't do that. And he never did, so that wasn't wrong. But, obviously, since it's played out all over the place ever since then with various other scenarios, it's I don't know. Anyway, but still, the fact that I was even on that dude's freaking hit list, right? So then, when I'm writing these letters to Tyler and then I'm making these connections, it's because I kind of loosely had it connected, but I hadn't given myself enough space to sit down and really look at all the ways that there were just these different things that stemmed from this bullshit thing. And, it was just why I struggled with so many various things throughout my entire existence. It's even, back then, right? So it's been put on some asshole's hit list for, you know, him wanting to take people out and all this stuff. It's like, for something that was essentially a rumor that wouldn't go away, right? Because my asshole cousin and his dipshit buddy, that, you know, they weren't popular by any means. So that was the biggest thing was, you know, my cousin felt like he was tough shit because, you know, he got to say that he had this experience that technically that he really didn't. But because he said it, everybody went along with it because the boy said it, right? And, you know, it doesn't really matter. There's like, what could I do that, right? So it's like everybody just kind of accepts it and goes running with it, and okay, fuck you all, but you know, what do you do with that? My ear's buzzing. Anyway, I'm not really sure how I got to that now. I don't know. I didn't know where it was going today. I mean, I never know where it goes, really. And I really wanted to do the video because I really like this outfit. And my sleeves match my little houses. My little windows on my house. So, yeah. So that's part of it, too. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Because I like the hour and 5 minutes to hour and like 20-minute range. I feel like in there's a good space. So, stop talking. Oh, and this makeup, I like that too. And these aren't Halloweeny, but they're cute. And they match the earrings, which go with the rest of it. So, hey. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until next time. See ya.